Welcome to finally a new episode of Late Night with Lenette. I'm Lenette Peterson, your host. It's nice to be back in New Hampshire after being in Florida for about 2.5 months. I was down taking care of an ailing mother, but it's nice to be back to some cool weather and to be chilly for a change instead of melting, especially on my bicycle. So we're going to get back to our Maggie moment first of all. Our governor has been very busy messing up the state as usual. If you think back to the spring, she vetoed the budget. She didn't get her way, so she had her little tantrum, and we're going to veto the whole budget. Well, what does she do but call a special session this past month? And for what? She has finally realized that there's a drug problem in New Hampshire. Imagine that. Well, if she had read the budget instead of having her little tantrum, she would have seen that the House and the Senate both had put money in the budget for this problem. But no, the budget didn't suit her needs, so no, let's veto it. And then all of a sudden, panic mode, special session, we need money. Really, do we want the governor in Washington, D.C. representing us? We got enough monkeys down there. We don't need another one that's just going to do whatever. Let's veto this. Oh, let's have this. No. Just say no to Maggie Hassan, no matter what office she runs for. The woman has no clue what she's doing. Hilarious Clinton. Oh, another one. Oh, my word. Where do we start with hilarious? Let's see. She's laughed about Carly Fiorina being wanting one of Hillary Clinton's supporters to strangle her. That's nice. She has spoken with a forked tongue about Veterans Affairs. Her and her husband, they're special. She still is not giving honest answers about campaign funding, the foundation's funding. We can still continue with the fiasco of her email server. And folks, have we ever really received the truth about Benghazi? Oh my word, it just never stops with that woman. Folks, the current administration has made a total mockery of this country. Our country's going down the drain thanks to the current administration. Another Clinton in the White House, pulling the chain. We are going to rapidly go down the drain if we have a Clinton in the White House. Just say no to hilarious Clinton. I can't imagine. Oh, my word. My guest tonight has been on the show before, but this time he's in a different role. Representative Josh Moore, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lenette.
It's nice having you on.
Yeah, I couldn't help it. I was almost chuckling and laughing over here to death because of the beginning of your show talking about Maggie Hassan because it's so true.
Yeah, well, you're a state rep, please. She did call a special session for the budget, right?
She did.
Well, not for the budget, but for
to attack and take care of this problem that we're having, which it is a problem.
Yes,
no one doubts. And we all know that there's a big heroin problem in New Hampshire. And actually, I heard that it's just sweeping the other states too.
Oh yeah,
they're all having a problem.
Yes.
So, but yes, New Hampshire having a big problem with it. Called special session, and it was merely to form a committee, a task force, if you will, to talk about the issues and proposing legislation and so on.
Now, and was I not correct in saying that it was in the budget?
It was in the budget, and she vetoed.
Yes,
she did.
And she did have a little tantrum because she didn't get her way. Correct.
That's correct.
Yes. Just say no to Maggie.
Yep.
No matter what position she runs for. Maybe sanitation department would be a good place to put her.
I think so. It's ridiculous. It's
well, you have a shirt on, Cruz 2016.
I do.
I take it you're
That's right.
You're in favor of Senator Ted Cruz.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Why? Why Senator Ted Cruz?
Yeah, I think so this goes back a little further for me. I want to say probably middle of 2012 when I really took notice of him. Really, when he started filibustering against Obamacare, and he's an honest guy. Really, it boils down to very simplistic reasons. And I think the most obvious really for me is I'm a Christian. Ted Cruz is a Christian, he's very strong. But it doesn't just stop there because, you got a lot of these candidates who are self-proclaimed Christian. Carly Fiorina, Ben Carson, Rick Santorum is a very strong Christian. You see, you got a lot of these people. But it goes even further. The man has stood strong. He has called Mitch McConnell out on his lies on the Senate floor. He's fought against Planned Parenthood. He's fought against Obamacare. The most tyrannical things that have come to the Senate floor, he's fought against. And he's been the only one standing, really. One of the few, I should say, because you have to give credit to other folks like Senator Mike Lee and Rand Paul and people like that. I don't just like discrediting people just because I support one candidate. But he's very consistent. He's got the strongest conservative record other than Mike Lee on the Senate floor. And he's a trustworthy guy. When he says he's going to do something, he'll do it. No one. I have asked people. No one can say anything. No one has ever pointed out something that he said he has done that he hasn't done yet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, the last presidential campaign, I had endorsed Rick Santorum. Good, strong conservative.
Yep.
Honest. Had some great ideas how to get this country back in line. He was too conservative for people. Wasn't getting the vote.
Yeah.
Could that happen to the senator as well?
So I suppose it could, in theory, happen. It could happen really to anybody. The polls aren't showing that, though.
Right, yeah.
And in fact, recently he really just got a bump. In the NBC poll, national poll, he's now second place, and it just tied with Ben Carson, is moving up. He's now in strong second place at 21% in the Iowa caucus poll. So that's good. I mean, he's really getting bumped up now. So as far as that's concerned, though, I don't foresee that happening because I think there's two things. Number one, you're talking about 4 years later, and there's anger has elevated significantly. There's a lot that's happened since then.
Oh, yeah.
Number two, I think Ted Cruz has taken a different approach because he's really snagged a lot of the libertarian vote as well. You know, he's and I wouldn't say he's come over to their side necessarily, to the libertarian side, but Ted Cruz frames everything in a very all-inclusive way while still sticking to those conservative principles. Very strong on states' rights, you know, and I think just a different approach that he's come with so far. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. That's for sure. I think it'll play well.
Yeah. Now, just going to throw this out. What about the Second Amendment? Is he a strong Second Amendment candidate?
Lord. Yeah, he actually got endorsed by the Gun Owners of America.
Very
3
good.
months ago, back in July or August, I think it was. So yeah, very strong. He went out duck hunting the other day, and people, actually the media was so funny. The media said he's holding his gun wrong, like they know. I mean,
yeah.
Remember Barbara Dianne Feinstein? Remember she's like holding her with a trigger, and I'm like, point that thing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, the liberal media. Don't even get me going.
It's so true. It's
yeah. Okay. You know, he's from Texas. Mm-hmm. Where's he stand on illegal immigration?
The big issue.
Yeah.
Well,
especially with Texas. I mean, they're a border state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So immigration, he's absolutely against amnesty. Absolutely against amnesty. There was an issue that came up with people. One of the concerns as far as H-1B1 visas. Ted Cruz had taken a stand in 2011 approving these, but because he wanted to see, benefits stripped from illegal immigrants. Still supporting this, but saying strip the benefits. Well, guess what? I agree with that too. Back then, that was a very radical thing to say. In 2011, yeah, you just didn't say those things back then. So he took a strong stand on that. Now with his understanding, kind of like the TPP-TPA issue that came up, he gave them a chance and said, okay, now you're screwing us over. No, that ain't going to happen. He realizes this. So he's recently said, no, we're not even going to support this anymore. This is a system that has been abused. It's one of the few things that people have been a little weary on. They're like, okay, where does he stand on this? But he's recently come out and said, look, I stood on this. I gave them a chance. I didn't want the system being abused. I took a middle ground approach to it, and they're abusing it. Not going to happen. And that's okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. You know, are you going to have a candidate that you're going to agree 100% with? No, you never do. No. So that's perfectly okay, but he stands strong on these issues, and he continues to move forward, especially when he learns more about it. So that's why I can respect that out of him.
Very good. Yeah, and what I say to people, illegal immigration, what part of illegal do you not understand? Against the law.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have veterans who are homeless and starving. That should be our first focus, not illegal immigrants. Put the money to our homeless vets. Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. That's another topic. Don't get me going on.
No, it's so true. But people, that's a really tough. I wouldn't even say tough, but it's it's a big issue in Texas.
Oh,
and that's
huge.
where
Yeah.
Ted Cruz is from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's taken a very bold stand in saying, no, I am not for this at all.
Yeah,
I'm not for amnesty, and he's moving up in the polls with them.
Yeah, my husband and I lived in San Antonio for 3.5 years, and yeah, if you're not bilingual, it's tough getting a job in Texas. Yeah.
I imagine it is.
Public education. Absolute mess. It's an absolute mess. Yes, I'm going on the record. It's an absolute mess. Where does he stand on Common Core?
Oh.
Common Core standards. The big thing that's ruining public education.
Just like anything that doesn't belong with the federal government, repeal every word, every single word and letter with Common Core. He's stated at every event he goes to, repeal every bit of it. And I love that because Common Core is obviously a big issue to me because, I'm on this education committee in Concord, and so we're really pushing forward and making sure that does not get implemented any more than it is. Of course, it's here in Merrimack, it's being used.
Yeah.
So it really stinks. But as far as Ted Cruz is concerned, get rid of it all. It doesn't belong with the federal government. It belongs in the states and the people. 10th Amendment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Boom, just
Local
like that.
control.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, what about the Department of Education in D.C.? Is it?
Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Get rid of that too.
Yeah.
Oh, the Department of Education. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't belong.
We don't need it.
No, we don't.
Give control of the education to the states. Give control to the locals.
That's right.
You don't need a Department of Education.
That's right.
Yeah.
Get rid of it all.
Federal government has no place in it.
That's right.
Yeah. There's a lot of places, a lot of things in D.C. we should get rid of.
It's so true. And it's funny because I think what people are looking when they see these issues and they say, oh, this could take, 30 minutes to explain. It's really simple with Ted Cruz. It really is. Get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this. And people say, well, how can you just get rid of it? Well, anything that was done with an executive action can be brought back with an executive action.
Exactly.
Or gotten rid of, I should say. So that's the way Ted Cruz, and he's already said that. You live by the pen, you die by the pen.
Exactly.
So that's...
Now, I got one to throw at you.
Yeah.
We have term limits for the president.
Uh-huh.
What about state and Senate? The House and Senate, I mean state.
You mean like for me personally?
Yeah, where do you stand on that? House and Senate.
I know a lot of people that would want me to say, yes, absolutely. Why would you even think, why would there even be a second thought to that?
Because they used to have term limits.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And I think probably it would be best to go back to it. I think it would be just to go back right to it and see how it works. I saw somebody use an argument before online, and this guy basically said our term limits are the people coming out and voting them out. That's term limit. I said that's very true. But then my dad challenged me with one. He said, but it works for the president. Why wouldn't it work for anybody else? I said that's also a valid argument.
Yeah, and most voters do not educate themselves.
That's true.
They look and they look for name recognition. Oh, I know this name, and they check it off. They don't do their homework. If they did their homework, half the clowns we have down in D.C. wouldn't get reelected.
So true.
But they don't do their homework.
And
in fact, I mean, I'm one to, I never did my homework before. A lot of times I would look, name recognition, or before I was in office, I worked with the Honorable Nancy Elliott. We went to the same church. I would go to her the Sunday before elections. Okay, Nance, here's my blank ballot. Let me know who's good. And I would have her. I would go to the source. And that's what people at my church do also. They come to the source. They know, hey, Lenette, who do we vote for? Who are the good ones? And throughout my church, they're like-minded with me. And I say, well, this is who I'm voting for. And I show them who I'm voting for.
Yep.
So, I think term limits would be...
I think so. I think it's a good approach. And the only reason why I really hesitate with, or more on the fence, if you will, probably a little more to the actually doing term limits, is if you have good people running, like Senator Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Jeff Sessions, Martha Blackburn, all these great senators and congressmen and women, it's really a shame to see them go. And you'd much rather have them in than have some anti-constitutionalists coming in. But at the same time, we should be such a fluid society, such an educated and constitutional society, that you should have constant constitutionalists in rotation.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if that's not where you're at.
Look at Merrimack. Like I said, Nancy Elliott did 3 terms.
Yep.
Couldn't run anymore because her husband Glenn was deathly ill. I ran in her place. I did 2 terms. I wasn't running again. Now, it's not that you knew I wasn't running again, but it worked out great. I'm not running again. You run, you take the place. The three of us were pretty like-minded and voting and things like that. So, yeah, you get someone else to take your place.
That's exactly right.
Term limits works. Then you don't have to have the huge salaries. You don't have to have the benefits. You don't have to have the retirement package. And can you think of anyone else on planet Earth, in the United States, that gets to vote or gets to pick their own benefits, their own retirement package, and their own salary?
Self-employed people.
Yeah, exactly.
We see how well that works sometimes. It's tough. It's tough stuff,
Yeah. But our illustrious House and Senate, vote on their own benefits, salary, and retirement. Yeah.
I know.
Hello.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, back to Cruz.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was a nice rabbit trail.
Yeah. Hop, hop.
So, I'm glad he's against the Common Core standards.
Oh, yeah.
There's too many of them that are too iffy, on the fence. They're not coming right out and saying yes or no. So you really have to look at the issues and see what they're actually coming out and saying. I'm not for this. I'm for this.
Exactly
if they don't have it etched in stone, I don't waste my time on them. If you can't make a decision, if you can't come out and say no to Common Core, no to immigration, or, hey, even say yes to Common Core, yes to immigration. Well, I'm not going to vote for you, but thank you for being honest.
Right.
Yeah. Too many of them, no, flippy floppy, and no.
The race is whittling down now. I think people are really starting to kind of find out who they want, who they see. As you get closer to the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary. Actually, I just found out yesterday or the day before. I thought the Iowa caucus was in December. It's like February.
Yeah, no, it's after our primary.
Yeah, is it? I thought I saw February 1st or 2nd or something.
I thought it was after our primary. That's why we were first in the nation.
No, the first in the nation primary.
Yeah, but I
thought
the caucus was after our primary.
I saw 2 or 3 sources that said February 1st. Huh. But I heard a bunch of people. I heard them talking about December. Oh, in December we're like a month from the caucus.
No, I know it's not in December.
So anyway, yeah, I was way off on that. But it's cool to see it coming up. Another issue that Ted Cruz has really stood firm on, and people have been wondering, how he's going to approach with this, and he's already given his plan, is the abolishment of the IRS. Which is awesome.
Oh.
And people think that's so taboo. It's like, you just can't abolish the IRS. We can't live without them. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Them. Absolutely.
Back to the states and back to local control.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And Ted Cruz has already said, this is how you do it. You come up with a simplified tax plan that allows you to fill out your taxes on a postcard, and that would shrink the IRS down to like 25 employees from 90,000.
Yeah, and hopefully the honest ones. I'm going to say thanks to our illustrious Senator Shaheen. Remember the scandal of her giving names, and I think she gave Social Security numbers also, but New Hampshire residents' names to the IRS and have them targeted. Well, ever since I was a state rep, my husband and I have had problems with our taxes 3 years in a row. And it was a mess. And the first time it took 6 months to clear up our problem, and we finally contacted the one person that was honest in the IRS. I called for the umpteenth million time. No one would give their real names. We always got John. There were a lot of Johns that work for the IRS, or Mary. Never gave last names, and usually hung up on my husband and I halfway through the conversation. We finally got a guy. His name was not John. Brought up our file, read it. Mrs. Peterson, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your taxes. You'll get a full refund plus interest. That's happened 3 years in a row now. I'd be thrilled to do away with the IRS.
Well, yeah, I know. I hear you. Especially that it's Obama's henchmen, to go after Tea Party groups and Christians and small businesses. It's ridiculous.
3 years in a row, we've had the nightmare. We've had a return. They had to pay us 3 years in a row, and we didn't get our return this last year until about the middle of September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We got interest, but hey, we'd rather get our return when we wouldn't want to. We would rather not have to go through the hassle to get our return. Yeah.
So they give you interest because of the hassle they went through. So they're giving somebody else's money too.
But get this. We also have to pay taxes on our interest.
Oh, gosh.
So we'll get a form that'll show us what the interest was, and we have to submit that and pay taxes on the interest that we made because of their mess up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the circle, it's a never-ending battle. You know, the circle continues.
That's crazy. There's actually a candidate out right now, and I won't say his name. Well, that lets you know that it's at least not Carly Fiorina, right? I won't say his name, but just because I don't want to, throw out something that's not necessarily true. But I did hear that this person who is highly popular wanted to, at one point, tax what was in your bank account. Not just what you make, but what goes in your bank account, tax that too. I don't know if he still holds that position. I haven't heard him say much about it because he really hasn't put out much of a detailed tax plan like Ted Cruz has. That was pretty concerning to me, though. And I'm just wondering, for those conservatives who are really gung-ho about this guy, are looking into those things, Because while I like a lot of things this candidate says, and I like their plan for a number of different things, those certain things right there concern me. Do you still hold true to taxing people's bank accounts? I mean, that's concerning. So I wish people would look further into this, instead of just being all feel good about the candidacy and what's going on.
Yeah, but like you said, the closer we get to the primary, that's when they get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And the rubber hits the road. And that's when they're going to have to say and come out and be specific and say yes or no.
Yeah.
Yes or no to the issues.
Donald Trump has already told Ted Cruz, he said, if he catches on, we're going to have to go to war. These guys have been buddy-buddy for a number of months now. Then Ted Cruz said, I like Donald Trump. He's a great friend of mine, but I am the most conservative in the race right now, so it's kind of funny watching them throwing out these little hints like, hey. But I saw a couple news articles. I don't know if you saw this, that Donald Trump has already effectively named Ted Cruz as his VP, his running mate.
I think that'd be an awesome team.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
You got Donald Trump, you get the businessman running the country. You have Ted Cruz, there to give him discernment and some more conservative views.
It would be a ticket that I would not hesitate to vote for. However, I see a lot, and I do, and I'm not just saying this, but I see a lot of people say Trump Cruz ticket, which obviously we know with the first name in the front, that's the president, so they want Trump as president, Cruz as VP, and I'm like, no. I'll take that. I'll take that, absolutely. But I think really, obviously, I want Cruz to be the VP, the president, and I could do Trump VP, because I want somebody in there who has the experience, Ted Cruz has legislative experience and judicial experience, by the way, because people, they say, well, he's only done one, hasn't even done a full term in the Senate, but he did do 5.5 years as a Solicitor General in Texas. Right. He was over, a couple hundred people. It was ridiculous, the amount of people that he had underneath him that he was helping to facilitate and guide lawyers. So it was, and he argued in front of the Supreme Court. Now, you want a guy who can kick tail and put the right people in the Supreme Court? Ted Cruz is your guy. Yeah.
Well, here you go. How about Donald Trump president, Cruz vice president, Carly Fiorina Secretary of State?
Well, I could do that.
Yeah.
Or you could
she could show Hillary Clinton how to be a Secretary of State, how to do the job the right way.
How about Ted Cruz as vice president, Carly Fiorina as VP? And Donald Trump as Secretary of War. No,
I can't see a Secretary of War. No, I think Alan
West would do
Secretary
great.
of War.
Oh, man.
Ben Carson as the Surgeon General.
Yeah, everybody agrees with that one. They always point
I
him
think
out.
that'd be a good cabinet. This country would get things would get done.
And
we'd get back to probably making money for a change instead of paying.
And you know what I'll
up.
take? I'll take Rand Paul as chairman of the Federal Reserve. Or you could do Ron Paul, whichever one.
Yeah, Rand Paul, or just get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Well, that would be the idea, because he'd eliminate himself out of a job.
Yeah, he'd eliminate himself out of a job. Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes you know what he thinks of the Federal Reserve.
You know it.
Yeah.
So, no, we're really excited about the campaign, and we're looking forward to it. Got a good ground game. Mm-hmm. And, obviously he's going up in the polls. That's really encouraging. I think it's December 14th or 15th. I think it's 15th is the next debate, which is coming up. So that'll be exciting. Democratic debate comes up. Actually, I got to tell you, the Democratic debate is so entertaining. In like its own twisted kind of way, it's entertaining.
Twisted, yes.
You remember, I had to throw that word in. You remember the first debate they had, and they argued for, 5 minutes over who had a worse NRA score? I thought that was pathetic. Yeah. I thought, well, I have a D. Well, I have an F. Going, and you're all pathetic. Yeah. I mean, really, this is like, I'm getting too excited about this. So.
Yeah. No, I've missed a lot of the debates and just political life in general. Being down in Florida with my mom. I'd see all my invitations, and I'm like, I have to say no, I'm still in Florida.
Oh.
And my mother was a very staunch Republican. She had it was Dear Gwyneth, a letter with a picture of President and Mrs. Bush. She had that hanging in her bedroom. And after she died, I had it when I was cleaning up her house and selling this. I moved it to the living room so everyone would see it in the living room. Never mind hide the picture in her bedroom. But she was a very staunch Republican, and she's like, "Oh, you can fly home for the weekend. Go." She's, "Can I come too?" Yeah, I'm like, "Sorry, Ma."
Oh, that'd have been great to have her here.
Yeah. She was a very, very good staunch Republican, and was thrilled that of all the waves that I cause up here.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, she never missed an episode of Late Night Lenette with Lenette. Always caught it on YouTube or Facebook.
That's awesome. Well, here, I'll throw this out real quick. If people want to donate, you can go to www.tedcruz.org. www.tedcruz.org, and you can donate, volunteer, whatnot, and find out all the information where he stands in detail. So it's fantastic.
Very good. Well, we have come to the close of another episode of Late Night with Lenette. This was so good, taping another show. Yeah. No reruns from now on. Well, for a while anyway. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Lenette.
Always a pleasure to be with the
likewise.
Young Jedi. Thanks again for tuning in to Late Night with Lenette. I thank you. Join us next week for another episode. Good night and God bless.